Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Selling My Business podcast. This is your host, August. Today, my guest is Mike and Jeannie Keen. They're both certified Main Street business brokers, and they each have more than 20 years of experience in the business. They spent more than a decade buying, building, and selling their own successful businesses in Virginia. They're both members of the International Business Brokers Association and the Carolina, Virginia Brokers Association. And they have a passion for helping business owners exit for the highest price possible, least amount of time, and with the least amount of risk. Their office boasts a closing average that's double the industry standard, and they attribute that to in part to their skill at negotiating on behalf of their clients. So, Mike and Jeannie, tell me a little bit more of your guys' background and why you guys became business brokers.
Well, August, first of all, thanks for having us. You know, Jeannie and I have owned several small businesses ourselves. We have just really enjoyed owning our own businesses, and we finally sold our last one. And of course, I've got 28 years of experience with state police and was a fraud investigator during that time. We finally started working with the numbers and decided this was going to be a right fit for us. We were actually looking to buy a business that a broker had listed. And at that time, it was a little hard to make contact with that broker to get where we wanted to go. And the little red light went off in our head and decided here we are. So from 2016 until current, we've been listing and selling business.
Buy business and ended up buying the business brokerage franchise.
And how long have you guys been business brokers at this point?
We've been doing it about 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're hitting our 8th year this year.
So one of the things I want to talk about first, actually, is you guys talk about having about the double the industry standard with closing rates. What would you attribute that to most? How are you guys able to accomplish that?
I think part of it is the hand-holding that we do with our sellers. And I think probably 50% of it is Mike's ability to negotiate to get the deal over the finish line. And I'll also throw in relationships, the ability to refer, even though we're working for the seller, the ability to be able to refer to a lender, to a tax attorney, to all of those ancillary services as part of their intermediary team. I think that is what's built up our business. We're a little bit picky about the businesses that we list. We do have some criteria in terms of our listings, but the amount of hand-holding that we do and the ability to be able to negotiate on behalf of our clients is what sets us apart.
Obviously, saying that is a pretty strong statement. So one of the questions I have here is, the whole goal of this podcast is to give good advice to business owners in a variety of different ways. From your guys' perspective, business owner that's looking to sell their business, what's the role of the business broker in all of that?
We get that question a lot. We have to explain for a business owner who's spent the last 20 years building blood, sweat, and tears going into their business, late nights, long days, and you're going to take a 10% commission at closing. So part of it is educating our clients on all of the things that a broker is going to do. And many times a broker can get a seller a higher price in the end than they'd be able to get if they were trying to represent themselves through the course of the sale of the business. So I just wanted to touch briefly on all of the things, some of the things that a broker does when they're representing a seller through the course of the transaction. So the first step, of course, is a seller would provide financial information that we would then use for evaluation or a most probable sales price. And so a broker would analyze tax returns, balance sheets, P&Ls, and then look at industry comps to come up with what we think the business would sell on the open market. So if the seller is agreeable to that, a listing agreement is signed, and then we begin to work in lockstep with one another. We are hand-holding through the entire process. We begin then to put together a package of marketing material that's going to be posted on all the industry leading websites. We're going to complete a very thorough questionnaire up front with our sellers to get a very clear understanding of how the business runs, who the key players are in the business, everything all the way down to the vendor level, to the equipment level. We want to understand all of the working parts of the business. And we use all of that information to put together a SIM, which you'll hear referred to in the industry, or a confidential information memorandum. And we will release that confidential information memorandum selectively to potential buyers who inquire about the business, of course, after signing a non-disclosure agreement. We're a little bit different in that we speak to every single buyer that inquires on a business. I know a lot of brokerages have automation set up so that information is automatically sent to any buyer that may inquire. But I'm a therapist by training, so I feel like I can pretty quickly determine whether a buyer is a serious buyer, maybe they've owned businesses before, they're looking to acquire, they're looking to add on, or whether they're a tire kicker. There's someone who's been looking for the last 3 years to maybe buy a business. So I think we can vet those buyers pretty quickly. And then that's when the more complicated negotiations begin. So we can negotiate on behalf of our seller, the price, the terms, all the deal done.
Yeah, awesome. So I want to back up something you said during that, where you said that you're actually a therapist. So obviously selling a business, the whole process is a very emotional process. Someone that's been working in their business for 20, 30 years, basically it's been their whole life work. And then they're looking to sell it, hand it off to somebody else. It's like so much emotion that's attached to the business. How do you kind of with your background, help manage the seller in this kind of emotional state as they're trying to sell their business?
Well, sometimes you just have to listen. You need to listen to what their concerns are. You need to have empathy to what their concerns are. And then we're all working towards the same goal. So there's just nuanced things that, Mike is retired law enforcement and myself as a former therapist are able to do that. I'm not sure. Well, I think it translates nicely to business brokerage because it is such an emotional process.
Yes.
I think listening is probably the key skill that helps a seller work towards what that sales process is going to be like for them. We like to help them imagine what they're going to do with their time, what their life is going to look like after they sell the business. There's some visionary things that we can do with the client to just help them think about, I'm going to play golf, I'm going to get to spend more time with the grandkids. That's kind of their why behind why they're selling the business. And we keep pushing them towards that.
And then on your side, Mike, your past experience, how's that translated on the business broker side?
Well, like Jeannie said, August, listening to what the buyer or the seller both are saying plays a key role in getting a deal to the finish line. Every seller that has worked for the last 20, 30, 40 years to build a business, they're going to have some emotional attachment to the business when it comes time to sell. They're going to, really and truly question themselves. Am I making the right decision? What about my employees? Am I doing what's right for those employees? Or do I have a child in my family that, wants to take over the business and here I am selling it? But there's also that sense of pride that they have. I've worked for 30 years. I've built a business and now I'm very proud of it because I've built something with value that I can sell now. But then you get the emotional roller coaster that comes along behind that when you do get into an LOI or a contract where, maybe dealing with either the banks or an attorney and you have all the questions come needing more information during that due diligence period. It gets very emotional. And a lot of times we see sellers ready to throw their hands up and quit just because they don't know where to go to get this information. And we have to try to steer them in the right direction to keep them on track.
And I think too, August, that's where having a more removed third party to be able to negotiate on behalf of the seller, and it takes out that emotionality. It's real hard to try to sell your own business. There's all of these steps that are involved, and having a broker as part of your team can really take some of that emotionality out of the equation.
It helps eliminate the stress and the fears that they have.
Yeah. So what other advice do you guys have for business owners? Some things that you've seen, commonalities you've seen during a transaction you would like to bring up as just advice to any business owners listening?
Not every deal is the same, but they all have the same commonalities at some point throughout the deal. As the old saying goes in the business brokerage world, most deals get off track at least 3 times before they ever close. Our job is to help keep those emotions down, help settle the fears, and guide the seller in the right direction. Just as late as today, I've been on the phone the last couple hours negotiating for a seller that a deal was supposed to close next week and it was getting off track, but we were able to make some phone calls, get a conference call scheduled for early next week. The whole issue is going to come together now and we'll be able to get it across the finish line. But I just would like for everybody to understand, start now, take your time, put all the processes in place that you need to prepare the business for sale. So when you do go to a broker, you get it listed. It helps cut down on the amount of information as a seller that you would need to be gathering.
And so you say that there's always like at least 2 or 3 bumps on the road every time you're trying to sell a business. Is it because the lack of the business owner being prepared is the most common reason, or it could really be anything across the board? Like it could be on the buyer side. Like where do those roadblocks, bumps on the road come from?
It's just the complexity of selling a business. You know, a lien comes back on property. An SBA lender is not moving as quickly as they should be. Deals run into bumps in the road for a million different reasons. And when you're working with a broker, you're hiring that experience. A broker brings the experience of every previous deal to that deal. And a seller really can't begin preparing too soon to sell their business. You know, the day you buy a business, you need to start thinking, what is my exit plan going to be? Am I thinking I'm going to run this business for 10 years and then exit? Well, then at year 8, or year 7, I really need to start preparing that business. I need to work with a tax accountant. I need to be sure I have good books and records, you know, all of the things that we talk about when we talk about preparing your business for sale. Start doing those a couple of years out.
Got it. Cool. So how can, if anyone's listening, interested in more of your guys' advice, how can they reach you guys?
The easiest way would be jkeen@sunbeltnetwork.com or mkeen@sunbeltnetwork.com. Just shoot us an email.
Okay. And then just to get a refresher, the areas and businesses you guys like to work with, what are those?
We're generalists. We will work in any industry. I think there's a lot of advantages to that. We like recurring revenue. We like a business with
Good cash flow.
2 to 20 million in gross revenue, but we have some flexibility there.
I appreciate you guys coming on this quick podcast to give some great advice. We appreciate everyone that's listened to this. Hopefully you guys got some good pointers, especially kind of on the psychological, emotional side. But yeah, thanks to everyone for listening. If you guys need any additional help with selling your business, you guys can reach out to Mike and Jeannie, or you can reach out to us and we'll help connect you with a broker in your local market. So thank you so much, both of you. We really appreciate the great advice.
Thanks, August.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.